Hello everyone and welcome to a show that we had a long time coming. A show that we took a while to come up with a name for, really. So this will go into a new playlist on our YouTube channel. And what it is, if you remember guys, a long time ago I asked you to make video submissions of your watch. I asked you to show me what's on your wrist. And I asked you to tell me why you love this watch and why is it so special to you. And at first we thought about the cliche hashtags you see on Instagram, what's on your wrist or what's on my wrist. But at the end of the day, I decided to name the show, something a little different. I decided to name it, Ian, drum roll please, Real Watches, Real People, Real Stories. I felt that that went along really, really well, and really based on the submissions that you guys sent, because the submissions you sent are just that, they are real. Let's face it, with today's day and age of technology and editing skills of Ian and many other video editors out there worldwide, I can make the show sound as fancy and as cool looking as possible with all the special effects and pop-ins and so on and so forth. And it can seem very, very real on camera, but this is raw, uncut footage from you guys, your watches, your stories, and this is why I decided to name the show Real Watches, Real People, Real Stories. So I'm going to do this on a regular basis. I'm not going to get one out every single week. It takes time to prep. It takes time for you guys to submit these videos. But in reality, all I really want, and you'll see based on today's example, is a shot of your watch. You're welcome to put your cell phone camera if you don't mind being out there. I will post this, keep in mind. Or if you just want to show me the watch and do a voiceover, so to speak, over your watch, and I'll just give you my reactions. And this will also give the chance to other viewers to see what you guys are all wearing. And with the huge family that we've built on my YouTube channel, nearing 28,000 followers, I think this can become a pretty cool thing where you guys will get to know each other, for one, especially if you're showing your faces, and in the very least you'll get to know each other's watches and who is wearing what. By watching one of these submissions, you may have an idea on your next watch purchase, or hearing somebody real, again, not a dealer but an end user, telling you about why they're so passionate about this particular watch may entice you to go out and look for that same watch, because those may very well be the reasons that resonate with you, if that makes sense. So let's jump to our first submission from Ian Zonas.
Mi nombre es Ian, soy de Uruguay y bueno, te quería mostrar el reloj, mi reloj favorito y mi actual reloj es un Omega Seamaster Electric Blue cuarzo 41 milímetros. Es usado como podrán ver, y bueno, la verdad que es mi reloj favorito porque hace mucho tiempo quería comprarme un Omega y bueno, trabajé duro para comprármelo y lo estoy disfrutando mucho. También quería decirte que me gustan mucho tus videos y bueno, cada vez que puedo los miro. Un gran abrazo.
Obviously, that was not in English, that was in Spanish. Ian's sister-in-law happens to speak Spanish. She was kind enough to provide the translation that you guys saw on the bottom of the screen. So Ian, first and foremost, thank you very much for your submission. By the way, guys, if you feel more comfortable speaking in your native tongue, by all means do the same. I'm sure we can figure out a translation. Today's day and age of technology, I don't necessarily have to reach out to anyone. Google can often translate things as well. In fact, I would encourage you, if you do speak a foreign language, I would encourage you to tell me where you're from and maybe put a sentence or two in your native tongue, even if you choose to speak English. It just makes it that much more fun, I feel like. So quick reaction to that watch, Seamaster, right? It's a 41 millimeter, nice size, right? It's definitely a sports watch, a diver's watch. It's a rugged watch. It's a watch that doesn't require much maintenance with the exception of a battery change every 5 years or so, right? I'm a big James Bond fan. Omega is synonymous with James Bond, right?
You know, former SAS types with easy smiles and expensive watches. Rolex?
Omega.
Beautiful.
The electric blue dials certainly agree with that as well. Gives it a beautiful overall look. I love the fact that it's on a rubber strap. A watch that many tend to gravitate towards as a daily wear because again, it can take a beating. I really do like your choice, and as far as I'm concerned, a great choice for a watch that's under $3,000. Enjoy it and wear it in good health, Ian. One thing I'll mention before going to the next one, you mentioned, as you can tell, it is used. And I tell you guys and I encourage you guys, don't be afraid to beat your watches up. Scratches, dents, any kind of cosmetic damage is something that can be easily reversed for a relatively low cost. Wear your watches, use your watches. They're meant to be used. They're not stamps, right? Don't keep them sealed in plastic, and don't try to walk around to ensure you don't bump anything. Yes, it is an expensive accessory, but meant to be used. And I like the fact that you mentioned that in your video. Let's go to the next gentleman's submission. And this is a gentleman by the name of Cherry Chan, who actually showed himself on the screen.
Hi Roman, this is Terry C, and here are my two favorite watches. The first one is the Breguet Octo Finissimo. I love this watch because it looks amazing. Look at all the details on the case. Looks like nothing out there. It's a little bit stealthy, but it's great when you get a closer look at the case and the beautiful movement. It wears amazingly comfortable because it's so light. And all right, and here's the second piece. It's the Glasuted Original Panomatic Lunar in a steel case. I love it because I love the off-center dial. I love the moon phase. It's very beautiful, romantic. I love the big dates. And the movement is amazingly beautiful. Look at all that detailed work in the hand engraving. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Terry, well, let me take this watch off, Maris. By the way, I'm wearing my vintage Breguet Type 20 from 1951. I showed you guys this before. This hasn't gotten wear time lately, so I decided to put that on today. And let me put this thing on. Guess what? It's the first watch you show, the Octo Finissimo, except on a strap. In terms of this thing sitting on a wrist, it doesn't get any more comfortable than this. It is currently the thinnest watch. Now, I did an episode on these. I think I showed you guys the skeleton version of this, and I think I may have showed you the one on the bracelet. I don't remember with Ian. If you want to pop that up, we can see that. But here's an Octo Finissimo on my wrist, and I absolutely love everything about this particular watch. Outside of the fact that they beat out Vacheron, the last record was held in 1967 for the thinnest movement. They beat out Vacheron with this very watch. Of course, what you have is a variation of it on a bracelet, and I love that bracelet as well. It also sits very comfortable on the wrist. I've worn that watch before. There's your rotor. You can barely see it, right? It's right. There's the rotor, which you can barely see, and look at that. And let's look at the thinness of the watch. This is just so amazing. Let's see if I have a coin in here or something. Come on. Everybody has change in their drawer. Do I? There we go. Here's a quarter. You guys should be somewhat familiar with the, I'm not trying to do this not to scratch this watch, but here it is. There's a quarter laying right on top of that, just to give you an idea how thin this thing is. I won't get into much details on this watch because I did an entire episode on this, so guys, check it out when you get a chance. So great choice on the Breguet. I believe the retail on the watch is $13,600 or $13,800, and this is a watch that can be picked up at a discount, anywhere from 25 to as much as 35% off retail, smoking deal. And obviously the biggest thing I love about this watch is this came post the days of Breguet buying out Gerald Genta, and this is based on the iconic Genta design. So AAA plus on that one, Terry C. Love that watch. I haven't made up my mind whether I like it more on the bracelet or on the strap. Either or would suffice if I had to choose one or the other. Now, as far as Yacht-Master, right? And many ways to pronounce that, right? A wonderful little village in Germany, same place the Langenson comes from, as well as Yacht-Master Original, as well as Nomo's Yacht-Master, right? Lots of wonderful watchmaking that came from that village. I've always told you guys that I'm a big fan of a Langenson. I'm just as big a fan of Yacht-Master Original because I feel like their watchmaking is just as good as that of Langenson's. German watchmaking or German engineering in general is wonderful. They're certainly well known for their cars, but the watches should not be discounted. And I've always said that it's very difficult to break into the world of the big Swiss boys, and Langenson, along with Yacht-Master Original, has done a wonderful job. Also like that custom strap. It looks like a custom Stingray strap. I've never would have thought in a million years to put that strap on that watch, and it actually works. You know, it seems like it's sporty but yet elegant at the same time because of the Stingray skin. Actually works. Yacht-Master is cheaper of that Langenson. Sometimes it gets the rap of being that cheaper Langenson. I don't think it should be looked at that way. A lot of value for your money in this watch. It only retails for $10,000. If you are someone that picked it up even at 25% off, I think it makes for a great deal aesthetically. Again, the offset time, the moon phase at 1 o'clock. It's unmistakably either a glashute or a Langenson because they do tend to look the same. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think that's a great watch just the same, Terry. And thank you for your submission. Next up is Jimmy Splits.
Yeah, hi Roman, my name's Jimmy. I have a small watch channel called Jimmy Split 77. Firstly, I'd just like to thank you for your channel. I really value your opinions and your thoughts. This watch here is the most important piece in my collection because I received this on my 20th wedding anniversary. My wife also received a gold piece. We put them together, and what they mean to me is a successful marriage, a successful family, and also a successful career. So thanks again. Bye-bye.
See, I love this type of submissions. There's not much I can say about the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak other than the fact that you guys know it's my favorite brand. I love that. I love that particular Royal Oak. I love that combination. It doesn't have sort of the panda dials. It's one of the first ones which has a single color dial, which to me pops the best. When you start doing these panda dials and some of the newer stuff, I feel like it starts to take away from the Royal Oaks. Obviously, the legendary Gerald Genta design, much like this Octo, that also sings to me. But what's saying most to me about this is how you put it, what this watch signifies. And I've preached this many, many times to you guys in regards to certain watches signifying certain things, right? Big events, and a 20th year wedding anniversary is pretty big. I'm going on 18 years right now, so I'm almost there, Jimmy. But the fact that you said that this signifies a strong marriage, a strong family, and a successful career, that's absolutely amazing. And I think that's the best part of your submission is the fact that, yes, no, let's not discount the watch. It's an amazing watch. And the fact that I'm assuming you bought your wife a ladies Royal Oak to match. Let's not discount the fact that this is a great watch. But the fact that you said that what the watch signifies to you is what sings to me most, because I do have certain material things that do signify more than just being something that's a material or a status symbol. Of course, nothing wrong with the last thing that you said, where you said a successful career. That yes, if you're someone that has had a successful career, there's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself. But first and foremost, as you put it, successful marriage and successful family. And that is something that is truly, truly amazing, because you do tend to look at your watch a lot. It stays on you, and it's a constant reminder of the most important things in life. And I'm glad to see you tie that together to a piece of horology. And you mentioned you have a small channel. I haven't checked that out. I will check that out myself, and you guys check it out as well. Next, I have a submission from Eric King.
Hey Roman, this is Eric King. I'm just shooting a video of my favorite watch, which is the Rolex 116622 Yacht-Master with the blue dial. And I own an AP Royal Oak and probably about 6 other timepieces, but this one for some reason is just my favorite. I guess I like it because it's just an easy watch to wear, rides low on the wrist, and it's just gorgeous, especially in the sunlight when you get that blue dial popping out. Probably can't see it that way, but anyway, awesome channel. Just thought I'd send this video to you, and keep up the good work.
Eric, thank you for the compliments first and foremost, and thank you for your submission. I will point this out. So this is the newer version of the original Yacht-Master that had that gray dial. They remade it and they made it with a blue dial. Now Yacht-Master, the original Yacht-Master wasn't always a popular watch for one reason or the other. But with the introduction of that watch with the blue dial and the hype surrounding the blue dials, this watch has done really, really well, and it still is doing well. I also like the fact that you mentioned that, look, you own a Royal Oak, and some other watches, which I'm assuming are more expensive than this watch. It's not the most expensive or the fanciest watch in your collection that's necessarily your favorite. As you can see in this submission, and the submission coming up is going to be even a bigger surprise. You know, it's one of those things that oftentimes the watches become a part of you. Oftentimes, it's an oldie but a goodie that you first picked up. You know, when you start your watch collection, you don't jump to $100,000 pieces. You don't necessarily jump to APs. It can be a $500 Omega, or it can be a lower end Rolex. But once that watch becomes a part of you and starts to signify something, as I mentioned in the previous post, you know, it doesn't matter that the Royal Oak that you mentioned is probably one of the hottest watch models out there today. your Rolex still sings to you for one reason or the other. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive watch in your collection or the hypest watch on the market today. Arguably, Royal Oak is one of them, right? You still love your Rolex because it happens to be your favorite watch. And so it doesn't matter what the public says, what Instagram says, or what I say. At the end of the day, you make your own choices. And if your favorite watch happens to be not the hypest watch, because that Rolex Yacht-Master is not the most popular Rolex. It's one of the less popular Rolexes out there, right? Let's face it. But nevertheless, it still sings to you. You obviously love it and you're passionate about it. And that's all that really matters. And I thank you for your submission again. And the next submission comes from a gentleman by the name of Larry Seiden.
Greetings, Roman and Ian and everyone watching. I am a huge fan. Watch all your videos. I've been collecting watches for 20 years. I probably had 300 at least in my collection. All kinds. AP, Pateks, Rolexes, you name it. But since 2004, this limited, it's not limited, 2,000 pieces. IWC Cousteau's diver, gorgeous gradient, radiant blue dial, just spectacular. This watch has been all over the world with me, serviced a few times, just my favorite watch. If I can only have one, I know it's a crazy idea, but this is my watch.
So to add to what I said in the previous submission, again, here's a gentleman, and he's a well-known gentleman. A little while back, there was an entire story done on this gentleman in Watch Time magazine, a collection of 300 watches. And trust me when I tell you, if you're thinking, oh my God, this couple of $1,000 Jacques Cousteau, like what is that? What's the big deal about it? It doesn't matter. A true watch connoisseur doesn't look at the price, doesn't look at the brand, doesn't look at the hype. He is a person that truly, truly practices what I always preach, and that is to buy what you like first and foremost. And that Jacques Cousteau, as simple of a watch as it is, it does have a beautiful blue dial. I've sold many of these early in my career in different variations. They came on rubber straps, and then they had second versions of them, et cetera, et cetera. So this is obviously the first version. Here's a gentleman who can seemingly, at any given time, put on a super impressive watch, doesn't look at it that way. He appreciates that watch for what it is, not based on its monetary value, not based on the hype value. Although when those watches came out, they were very popular. The one on the rubber strap was extremely popular, actually. But nevertheless, he appreciates that watch for what it is. This is a watch that sings to me. So when you have a guy out there like Larry, who's a known collector, who's got a humongous collection, showing you a seemingly inexpensive watch, what doesn't seem like a big deal to you, it's a big deal to him, because again, he practices what I always preach. You buy what you like first and foremost. I'm familiar with some of Larry's collection. There's plenty of pieces out there that would blow this IWC out of the park, but yet he chose to show us the Jacques Cousteau. I guess it's worth mentioning the man and the legend himself. Jacques-Yves Cousteau was a French naval officer. He was an explorer. He was a conservationist. Did I get that right? A filmmaker, he was an innovator, he was a scientist, he was a photographer, he was an author and a researcher who studied the sea and all forms of life in the water, and he co-developed the aqualung. He also pioneered marine conservation and was a member of the Académie Française. You can learn more about Jacques Cousteau and why that watch was tributed to him. It's a very well-deserved tribute. Of course, it's a diver watch, obviously, for that very reason. But Jacques Cousteau is a legend. I should say was a legend. He passed away in 1997, I think, late 90s, I remember. And he's a legend just the same post his passing. Very interesting individual. So if you guys don't know much about him, I suggest get out there and do a little bit of reading. Larry, thank you very much for that submission. Moving on to Chris from New York.
Roman, what's up, man? It's Chris from New York. How's it going? So, in response to your question, here is my Vicentera. This is a pretty cool watch, one of my favorites, 42 millimeters in grade 5 titanium. It has a blue iridescent dial, and that little tiny globe is 7 millimeters wide and also is made of grade 5 titanium. And that V at the 5 o'clock is pointing to where it is noon in the world. Right now I don't have it set correctly. But, this is one of my favorite watches. I think it's just a bargain. These go for about $4,500. It's a small, very small Swiss independent brand, and they make watches that are, I think, punch way above their weight limit. So what do you think of this watch? Have you ever even seen this watch before? Have you heard of this brand? What do you know about it? Tell me what you think. Thanks.
Well, Chris, first and foremost, thank you for speaking loud. Some of these videos, when you guys tape them video, the voice is really low, and I know Ian will appreciate you speaking loudly because that's going to allow for a much easier edit. So I have heard of Vicentera. It's a brand that came around. This is a brand that came around in the mid 2000s when I was still coming up in this particular business. I wasn't much into independence at the time I started. I was thinking of things that I kind of knew and had best knowledge of, and things that were actually selling because I was too busy trying to create a successful business. Selling independence, unfortunately, is not something that one can build a humongous business out of. It's a very niche space in the market. I've discussed independence before. I'm a fan of independence. I've told you guys before that I feel like today's independence and going back, let's say 10 years, are going to be those future collectibles. They're going to be those Paul Newman Daytonas, right? Your very first Urbex, your very first MB&Fs, you know, your Vianney Holters, and Vincent Plum, who is the creator and the brains behind Vicentera watches, right? I think that at the price that this watch costs and the fact that it's a quality made Swiss watch, it cannot be beat. If you take that watch and you compare it to the GMT Grubel Forze, who's also an independent at $500,000, it's a far cry in terms of value, right? So for $4,500, that particular watch, in my opinion, is yes and hell yes. Yes, it's a much less known independent. In fact, most of you guys probably have never heard of it, right? I do tend to keep my eye out on these lesser known brands. I've never sold one. I've never had one physically. But nevertheless, am I impressed by this watch? Absolutely. I am absolutely impressed by that watch. It's a very nice size. Use of titanium makes it obviously lighter. Love the globe. Love the way you have that little V, you know, pun intended, Vicentera, right? Pointing at the noon, and you should set your watch because right now it just looks like it's showing noon somewhere between Europe and the United States of America. But it's a gimmicky function because you're never really going to sit there and look at the little globe to figure that part out. But nevertheless, it looks cool as hell. So I'm sure it's a conversation piece whenever you come out and get out there with your buddies or watch buddies or whoever appreciates watches. I can't tell of, you know, because I've never had one in hand, I can't tell you how it touches, how it feels. If I get one in my hands, I will certainly do that and certainly do a what's on my desk review. So 3D complications is what they were all about when they started in the mid 2000s. I think by 2008, they created a couple of prototypes. And then finally in 2010, he did the Earth complication, so that little world that's in that watch is what identifies Vicentera watches greatly. Not a huge collection. The watch that you have, as well as the Tenno shape watch, he kind of caught the best of both worlds in terms of shape. If you go onto those websites, those are the only two collections or models that they have in various metals, various finishes, various dials, etc., etc. Not a whole lot of variety, and I kind of like that. You know, he is an independent. He's keeping his line small, literally down to two models, the one you have and a Tenno shape one, with variations in between. I would love to see what else he comes up with in the future. I like the idea of 3D complications, and executing a globe in a 3D complication is cool, but there's so many other cool features and things I would love to see done in a 3D type of complication, like show a power reserve in 3D or, you know, a chronograph in 3D. That could be a cool, interesting idea, and I'm sure these guys are long and hard thinking about it, and their R&D department is working hard on it. I hope they stick around. I hope they stick around for a while and grow up to be future classics. Last submission I'm going to take is from Ildefonso Garcia from Spain.
Hi, Roman. This watch, a simple Seiko quartz chronograph, was given to me by a woman I was going to marry at the beginning of the 90s, but unfortunately, she died a few months later because of leukemia. So I say, fuck you, cancer. Love and peace from Spain.
A touching story, you know. You know, as I hear that, I got goosebumps. I got to be honest with you. I've told you guys before. You've seen my video. I lost my sister at the age of 49 to cancer, and I can't begin to imagine how this gentleman felt that his future wife-to-be passed away from this terrible, terrible disease. And here's a watch, and there's really no need for me to talk about this particular watch and what this Seiko entails and what Seiko it is. It's really more about what it signifies. I feel like it's a catch-22, and it's a constant reminder of the woman that he loved and I'm sure still loves. And one reminder is obviously wonderful, and the other reminder is obviously terrible. You know, it's the same thing. It's a catch-22. And I would just say to you that I'm with you, cancer. It is pretty obvious you will cherish this watch for the rest of your life, for the rest of your God willing long life. And let it be a reminder of the positive, Let it only bring you the positive memories. I know it's tough to get rid of the negative memories, but I do have. There are some things that I have, some trinkets and things that are left over from my sister, some simple gifts, and oftentimes when I look at those things, or when I see my niece, who I have, my sister had one son. He then married a beautiful girl named Julia, and a lot of the stuff that my sister owned in the past, gifts that I have given her, watches and things of that nature, she now wears. And to me, it's a constant reminder, just the same, every time I see that. And you want to think positive. You can't, sad memories come up, but I try to turn them around and I try to think of the positive things. This is still very fresh in my mind. It hasn't even been 4 years. But every time I see a watch that I once gave to my sister that got passed on to her daughter-in-law, memory lives on, and memory never dies. And it's hard not to think of the negative things, but oftentimes you can use watches as a reminder of the good just the same. I thank you for your submission. I'm with you on the whole cancer thing, for sure, because it certainly hit close to home not too long ago for me just the same. Well, guys, I hate to end this on a sad note, but this is real life. This is real people. This is real stories. This is real watches. So not everything in life is peachy keen, as we say. I hope you guys enjoyed the first take, my first take on airing your submissions and giving you my reactions on it. If you have any suggestions as to how to change this up a little bit and what else I should do in regards to this, what else I could add to this new series. Again, this is very new to me as it is new to you guys, so all suggestions and constructive criticism is always welcome. Other than that, start submitting your videos again. Those videos are going to be submitted directly to Ian. You can email ian@luxurybazaar.com. He will collect up these videos. I'm going to figure out, the timing, how long this took, to see how many submissions I can do at a time, because most of them seem to run around the same amount of time. And remember, don't just submit a picture of your watch. Tell me why it's so special to you. Tell me if perhaps there's a story behind it, and perhaps that watch signifies something, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't really matter, because again, this show is called Real Watches, Real People, and Real Stories. I'm going to try to do one of these at least once a month based on your submissions. So I'll see you guys in my next regular videos, but for this, perhaps we'll do this again in about a month or so. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and last but not least, I always say, share this with your friends on your social media, because this is what helps my channel grow organically.